just wanted to check.
One of the issues, though, is Heath is, with all those chips, is not going to be afraid to defend his big blind and realize equity to min raises, even getting this close to the bubble. So makes it less appealing to open his big blind at this point, whereas some other stacks might, depending on the player, might have tighter inclinations.
Bottom pair for Heath, who will face a bet from Mateos.
Mateos goes larger, which, is he asking a 6 to fold with this sizing, and will Heath do that? Mateos does not even have 2 overcards to the 6, so definitely would like a 6 to fold, and is actually nearly drawing dead versus Heath's hand.
And Heath now makes bottom 2 pairs, so doubtful he'll be going anywhere.
Yeah, but Mateos now, I mean, hit one of his, what he would consider to be his best cards, and an over to the 6. Probably pretty happy to try to show down versus a pair of 6s, but unlikely to get that opportunity versus bottom 2, which
Thank you.
probably be very happy to bet and try to extract value from a pair of queens or kings.
This is done. Thank you.
175 out there.
At this point, I think Heath is just thinking about sizing and
140.
decides to go big, which makes a lot of sense. Probably wondering how big can I go, since, you know, I don't have too many really. I mean, I never have a set in my range, realistically speaking. Don't have ace king, aces, maybe not even king queen. So kind of best hands you're repping are sort of kings or queens up. Obviously, those are very good hands.
I think the biggest question so far, even against Ben Heath, is as Adrian Mateos, with our stack as short as it is it worth calling this pretty chunky bet on the turn with a very weak hand just because we don't want to be exploited by a good player? Or should we just cut and run, give up, you know? It's a huge bet.
I mean, Mateos starts the hand with about 25 blinds, so he's already sort of getting close to the danger zone.
Yeah, as Stapleton would say.
Yes, you're supposed to go danger zone.
I refuse.
What?
I refuse.
You have refused.
Yeah, my lawyers have been in touch.
Good. You know, the new Top Gun movie just came out. Anyway, like we're already eating into our stack, and like you said, this bet is like a lot, man. This is almost 6 blinds, this bet. This is a big deal. If we call, we're going to be 1-to-1 with the pot here, stack to pot ratio-wise as Mateos. We've got a pretty weak hand. There are things we're beating for sure that Ben would call with on the flop, specifically gut shots.
Yeah, and maybe even random floats some of the time. You know,
Yes.
it's possible. When
Yes.
Mateos is this short and it's a king high board, you might not give Mateos much value, and you say, okay, this is an opportunity to float. It's possible. So all of this is theoretically what should lead us to a call, but it would be so much better if we were deeper and it just didn't hurt as much when, you know, on the river, inevitably when we brick out and he jams or bets big again, it's like, do we really want to call down with this hand?
I mean, I don't think so. I think we have to check fold this hand on the river if Ben bets again most of the time.
Right.
You know?
And you had a point on the podcast that maybe we have to have hands in our range that take the line of check, call, check, fold in order to have the check, call hands and be protected, right? Which in theory makes sense, but in practice really sucks when you actually end up with those hands. You're like, I guess I have one of those hands now. Cool.
It never feels good. Although being in those spots sometimes, I sometimes feel good because I'm like, it's okay. I know I'm calling with a bunch of other hands here. This is just one of the ones I fold. It's okay to fold.
And then you can sleep like a baby.
Yeah. But it's not fun. You're right. And you're like, why does this have to be one of those hands, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't love this spot. I mean, I don't even know if Mateos really has to bet 50K on the flop. We talked about this on our podcast as well, where we're like, he could probably bet 30K or 25K. Also, this maybe folds out a little bit more of Ben's range, which I guess is the point.
Nitro betting. You ever heard of it? Well, now you have.
You better call a doctor.
You better call a doctor because of nitro betting, because you're going to get mauled by a lion with how awesome it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This ad is cogent. It makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a link in our pinned tweet. Use it to sign up for nitro betting. Even if you previously signed up for Nitrogen Sports, you need to use that new link to sign up for nitro betting to get access to our monthly tournament.
Also, of course, there's the 100% deposit bonus for poker, casino games, and sports betting up to 25 millibits. That's like $750 for each one. Get in there and get you some.
So he's near the top of his range.
Now the 10 on the river as Mateos hung around.
Fills in a lot of straights, 3 of them to be precise. That said, somewhat unlikely that Mateos would check call Jack-9 or 8-9. Maybe Ace-Jack. Mateos, it looks, I mean, he took a time bank. Like, is he considering turning this into a bluff? I mean, he does have about the worst hand he could possibly have at this point. Given, I mean, he made a very speculative call. In my opinion, he should probably fold his hand on the turn. So I guess
It was a big bet from Heath.
Yeah, I guess he decides part of the reason why he check calls the turn is to bluff some rivers where straights come in, and maybe Heath's hand gets worse. But
And look at this. He's putting 430 of his remaining 435 out there. What a statement and what a scary card for Heath. 8-9 is there. Jack-9 is there. Ace-Jack is there, but Ben Heath shakes his head, makes the call, and 6s and 7s will lead.
There is a lot to talk about on this river, a lot to unpack, as the other podcasters like to say.
Oh
you know,
my
whenever you're
God.
listening to a podcast and somebody says unpack, you know you're listening to a real intellectual
You
situation.
just have to take shots at everyone.
Yeah, I do. Just like Mateos had to take a shot at Ben Heath.
Yeah, he did.
So-
This is wild, this shot.
We struggled mightily in our podcast to figure out why Mateos was doing this, and subsequently if he should ever be doing this, right? Like, this is a weird line. What is he repping in any case, for value or for a bluff? As Ben Heath, it must be impossible to figure out what's the value and what are the bluffs here.
I can't really think of either, except he for value, it feels like he's taking a one-pair hand and turning in. Oh, sorry, for a bluff. Takes a one-pair hand like this and turns into a bluff. I don't know what else it could be. He check called 140 on the turn. What the hell? But then what value? It's really hard to come up with any straights that Mateos can have. How does he check call Ace-Jack on the turn when it's 140?
Or Jack-9, yeah.
Or Jack-9, right. So straights feel like not there either. So it's like weird 2-pair hands. Like, you don't think he'd check call a set on the turn and suddenly jam it. Like, he'd probably just keep betting a set on the turn.
Right.
What's going on?
Queen 10 feels like the one that's most likely, but then
Yeah.
it's also questionable if you would actually just open jam that, right?
I mean, you figure like every better hand is going to move you all in anyway.
Yeah.
So there is that. But at the same point, like when we want to keep some of Ben's bluffs alive, maybe we feel like Ben doesn't really have any bluffs anymore when the 10 comes in. 9-10 gets there. Jack-10 gets there enough that they can show down.
Right.
So maybe you're worried about that, but they're going to fold if we jam anyway. I don't know what we're doing.
So as the poker guys, we struggle to figure out Mateos' range of value and range of bluffs.
Yeah.
But one thing that we think we did figure out is why he chose to bluff with this hand.
Yes.
And I think it's quite possible that a 7 is the best bluff card that you can have as Mateos, because it's pretty much always going to be losing, right? For the most part, when Heath takes this line,
And the
unless
10 comes.
Yeah, unless Heath has a random float on the flop, the 7 is probably losing, because a lot of Heath's floats and then bets on the turn that were not beating a 7 before now are, because they contain a 10, like 9-10 or Jack-10.
Yeah.
Of course, we're getting called by the Jack-9s of the world, which is not great, but at least Heath doesn't have Ace-Jack in his range due to pre-flop. That's
Right.
nice. That
Right.
helps. So a 7 blocks the other hands that might snap call, though. It blocks 6-7, which unfortunately Heath ends up having, Queen 7 and King 7, which seem to be Heath's most likely 2-pair hands, because they weren't flopped 2-pair, they were turned, and that's when he took the pedal to the metal. He started the aggression then. So those are his most likely 2 pairs, making this the best blocker to have.
Right, because if Heath is going to use distribution to call, which we think he probably is going to have to do against a weird line like this and a player like Mateos who's going to be balanced and weird and aggressive and all those things, then like even a hand like 6-7, which of course the hand that Heath actually has here, that's the weakest of the hands with a 7, the 2-pair hands with a 7 of them. It's like the 4th best hand he can show up with.
Right, because other than that, he can have Jack-9.
Right. It's Jack 9, and then like you just said, King 7,
Queen 7.
Queen 7, 6, 7. We don't know what else he has that he takes this line with.
Right. So we think since Heath probably has enough kings and some stronger queens in his range, he probably has to call with this hand. And Mateos is a little unlucky that even though he blocks it, Heath ends up with one of those hands. Right. So maybe Mateos really figured out a good hand to do this with.
To be clear, this is all going under the assumption, though, that Heath is going to fold out a hand like King 3 or something like that. Like, if Heath isn't folding out top pair here, this may be a bad play.
It might be. Yeah, this might not be a play that he should do for value or as a bluff. But I think if you're going to pick bluffs, a 7 makes sense. The best bluffs being Jack 7 and 9-7 because you also block the straight.
Right. That's ideal.
That said, Heath calls in about 20 seconds because he knows against Adrian Mateos you have to use distribution.
Right. And he's like, well, here's the face. I lose definitely sometimes, but this is the fourth best hand I can show up with. I'm here.
Let's see what the solver has to say about this.
Okay.
It's Adrian Mateos. It's Ben Heath. It's Pio solver right in the middle.
Yes.
Wesley Cannon's going to divine the truth from Pio solver.
Do you think?
Maybe not the truth, but Pio's wishes.
Do you think Wesley Cannon ever American Pios that thing? If you know what I'm saying.
That is for another video or podcast.
Okay, I'm just,
If you want to hear about that, check out Joe Rogan's latest show.
Wow.
Anyway.
Okay.
Adrian Mateos.
Yeah.
On the flop. Pio doesn't like it. He's supposed to check most of his range, including this hand. But guess what Mateos does? He bets. He's like, you know what? I don't care about what the robots say.
I'm a man.
I'm Adrian Mateos.
Do I not bleed when you cut me?
I am made of flesh.
Yeah.
Ben Heath should mostly call this hand. He can do a little bit of raising, I suppose, for equity denial. Sure. Get to the turn.
Fine.
Got a definite check for Mateos, according to Pio. So Mateos does it right. It's going to be smooth sailing for him the rest of the way, Pio-wise. I'm sure of it.
Never a good sign when Grant says that.
Of course, with the 2 pair, it's an easy bet for Heath. Pio loves it.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Mateos is supposed to fold this hand 100% of the time.
I mean, it's so interesting, isn't it? You improve, and you're still supposed to fold. That's rough.
It's a little bit rough. 8-7 suited is his weakest call. So he's close at least.
How about that?
He's kind of close.
Not close enough.
No.
And in fact, he's drawing dead.
Well, yeah. Here
So
we
that's
go.
part of it. Maybe.
Maybe
not.
Here's the river. All right.
Okay.
Because this is the real stuff here, right? The river where Mateos does the shove, and we had our whole complicated theory about why he might do that.
Oh my God, so complicated.
How is the best possible bluff, etc.
Blah blah blah.
Pio's like, shut the hell up, flesh bag.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what Wesley had to say. This is a quote from Wesley
Okay.
about Mateos on the river. You should be leading 0.04% of hands for this sizing on the river. I literally can't even find where the 0.04 comes from. This seems like a blunder, and with his exact hand, he is lighting about 53,000 chips on fire with his bluff.
Wow.
Strong words from the solver.
And Mateos only moves in for 435,000, so
Yeah.
53K is a lot of chips to be lighting on fire.
So Pio's not like, yeah, the 7 blocker is great. I
Pio's like-
love that idea a lot. It's wonderful.
I was like, it's time for us to rise up against the humans when they're doing stuff like this. Yeah.
Yeah, except for Ben Heath, which Pio loves the call. So,
Oh.
of course.
Well, he's got the hair. Ben the Hair Heath.
Yep, that's what they call him. Hey, Pio liked everything Ben Heath did.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Ben. You win the Pio Award. We'll see you in Oslo in November for the ceremony.
Yep. The Pio Award.
Yeah, bring tuxedo.
Okay, as usual, all hell breaks loose on the river, and Adrian Mateos is right in the middle of it. So Pio did not like this shove in any way. Didn't even like the call on the turn. What do you guys think about these decisions by Mateos? By the way, feel free to weigh in on Ben Heath's decisions as well. Although the solver loved everything he did, everyone loves everything Ben Heath does. Look
The
at that
golden
guy.
boy, he can do no wrong.
I conditioned my hair with expensive conditioner. I'm Ben Heath from some country like England. Yeah, I know. I just was working my way to it. It was a joke and you ruined it. It's fine. Anyway.
Sometimes your gaps in knowledge are hard to find.
That's fair. Let us know in the comments what you think about these players' decisions, mostly on the river, but anywhere else that you have a question or want to challenge their thinking.
And you can do that on Discord as well. That's a great place to be. We have a Discord server. The link is in the description of this video, and we should see you there because then your life will be better.
Always better.